welcome to today's edition of Pegasus Test. On today's edition, we're covering Stage 7 of Finnish Brutality 2024, Hot Wheels. Now, the introduction to this stage is absolutely awesome. The RO who designed it was also running the stage, and he claimed that he had done about 400 stage designs over his lifetime, and that this stage was literally his masterpiece. To quote him directly, his magnum opus. The best he had ever done, and he didn't think he could do any better than this stage. I can attest, this was an awesome stage. The stage lived up to the hype the man put out. This was incredibly awesome. So what did you have to do? You had to get into the front seat of a vehicle. Your weapon was staged muzzle down into the passenger side of the vehicle, and on the start signal, you had to engage two balloons, but the balloons were on RC cars, so they're dashing around doing crazy stuff, and it simulates getting a moving headshot. And they took getting a headshot seriously, because they literally, the guy filling the balloons had a balloon, and he'd fill it up, and they'd put it in a helmet, and add or subtract air, depending on what he needed to do to make it fit inside the helmet like the person was wearing it. So literally everybody got the same size target. These are dashing around on the RC cars, which I gotta tell you is way freaking harder to hit than if it was a person just running and moving around. It was made for a very challenging target engagement. Once you launched at least 30 rounds at the balloons, hopefully you got both of them, then you had a small, very small IPSC target that you had to put 10 rounds into. From there you cleared your weapon, and at a very small steel target downrange you took a clearing shot. Once you got that and hopefully collected your bonus, you exited the vehicle, went around the other side where there was a drag dummy staged in the back seat, simulating a wounded person that you had to get out of that vehicle to a designated evacuation area. Once you got there, you saw 5 boxes laid out on the ground in an X pattern. Once you entered a box, you had 7 seconds to get 4 hits on targets downrange. One was a silhouette, and the other 3 were small gongs about yay high, so basically simulating a headshot. The distance was about 20-25 meters. Once you stepped in the box, you had 7 seconds to make your hits. Once you got your hits, you left, went to one of the 4 boxes on the outer side of the X. Now, if you did not get your hits in that 7 seconds, you went to the center box, which was for penalties. You'd go there, get a penalty shot on the big target, and then go back to the box you were at, and go back in 7 seconds, get your hits. Once you've done 4 boxes, so 16 hits, then you move to the third bay of this stage, and you had a big obstacle in the middle, and on either side were 3 poppers that you had to knock down. And you only had to do all this in less than a 3-minute par time. Let's take a look at what happened to me, and we're going to talk about it. All right, let's get this party started. So I'm sitting here in my super classic 90s Nissan sedan here, and the buzzer goes off, and I grab my rifle, and the cars come out with their targets. And yeah, didn't have enough brightness, so I had to crank that up. The coolest thing about this is, as you're shooting at this, I knew this would be hard. I had done this at Blackwater back in the early 2000s when I took a course there, so I had under no illusions how difficult this would be, even though I just tagged one. The other cool thing about this is it's a head-sized target. The guy is counting rounds, by the way. I dumped the mag, but I had only loaded 28, and he said 27, so he knew I still had to put more rounds at it, so I wasn't getting away with just dumping a mag and calling it good, which is cool. I wanted to see if I could get the second one because that was worth a bonus too. Now, moving on to the static target, you're required to put 10 rounds into it. I actually go ahead and put 11. Matt, who was on Team America, was the RO on this stage, and he said that one of the biggest cause of penalties on this stage were people not putting enough rounds into that target, not counting out their rounds. So, figure 1 extra doesn't hurt. Now, going for the high value shot, taking my time on this one. Get it right.
Get out of the car.
So, picked up that right there, no penalty.
Take all of your belongings and let's save the
Stuck on the steering wheel because like that gear just did not fit in that compact car very well. Being very careful not to break the 180, even though the rifle is cleared empty. The drag dummy here was not terrible. You know, he's probably only about 100 pounds at the most. It was a fairly easy drag. And he got over here, got set, loaded up the rifle, got my aiming, and then stepped in, and here's where the problems began. for about the last year, I've having to use bifocal shooting glasses because to see my sights or a computer screen, I need readers. Everything else, I'm just fine. It also prevents, in the case of red dots, turning into a cluster of cherries, and it allows me to have a nice crisp dot. The problem here is I've never encountered it before until I got to this stage, but every time I got on the position behind the scope, the bifocal would cut the dot in half. And it was like either figure out which dot was the right one or move my head until I got it. With 7 seconds to get 4 hits, which was eminently doable. Plenty of people did it. I could have done it. Have done it once, as you've already seen. It was just the time it took to get a clear dot, to get anything. It was just always, as you see here, just as a second longer, and it would have been enough. Now, people are screaming, make sure you're ready to shoot when you get in the box. I basically was. The gun came right up on target, and I got my hits. So, it was just that little bit of getting the dot so I could see it. Also lost some time here, as I did in the car, getting the magazine into the dump pouch. Beats having to stuff it down the blouse front, but not perfect. As with the last stage, the camera gremlins got Team America hard, so we have no footage of Matt, and we have no footage of Chris. However, I will give you the update that Matt did pretty good. He got all but the last 3 pistol targets in the last bay. And Chris got hung up on the first box and never got out of it because the iron sights combined with the unpainted targets against that background made just for a very difficult sighting picture. Alright, this breacher task is not so much physical as it is mental. So you had a child's Moomin puzzle, and if you don't know what Moomin is, it's a very popular child's cartoon in Finland, and you had to put the puzzle together. After you did 10 burpees, and the puzzle, you had to put it into the little frame that they gave you, which was your first clue because it was upside down, and this tripped a lot of people up. They built the puzzle correctly, but they did it the wrong way. So after that, burpees, then you start on your puzzle. And, the pieces were actually scribed into the frame, so you kind of had a clue, and I was like starting to find my corners and edges by that, just by matching up. I don't do puzzles very often, so as you clearly see, I'm not the fastest here. I also wasn't the last one done, nor the first one, so nice middle of the pack on this one for once. You either had to, when they call it, run to the wall when they said wall, or if they called for a push-up, you had to do a single push-up. Push-up! And then you just kept working on the puzzle as each time they called it. Whoa! And surprisingly, out of 49 breachers, there were 18 people who failed this stage, who parred out before they got the puzzle. Kind of surprising. And there were several other ones that, as I said, the puzzle, you had to do it upside down, and they did it the wrong way. They got the right picture, but they got it the wrong way. And that was one of the things I forgot to mention early on, is you didn't know the exact picture you were trying to make. You just had to start messing with pieces to get it right. Push up! And it seemed like just about the time you got the momentum of figuring something out, they'd tell you to go to the wall or do a push-up. But overall, it wasn't terribly bad. And it was a nice relief from what we just did with the tire drag, and a nice break before we had to do our next breacher challenge, which was way physically tougher than this. Whoa! And you can see in the background there, one guy's already done. I'm closing in. As I get more pieces, it's easier to find out which one. Got a little confused about what I was supposed to do there. Push up. And the second guy is done. Right. Whoa! And I'm almost done if I didn't have to go to the wall. Whoa! And boom, done.
Ready.
All right. This stage lived up to the hype. The man who designed it said it was his best ever, and I believe it. That stage was absolutely incredible. You did so many things on it. engaging movement targets. And not only were you engaging moving targets, they were fast, unpredictably moving targets. I think while skill was definitely required, I also think there's an element of luck in it because of the random nature of it. And you had to switch from doing this random nature moving over to a very precision set of targets, either dumping 10 rounds into one or taking a high value shot. Then in the next bay over, boy, that was heartbreaking, and you could tell my frustration in the video because it was something I knew I could do. It was well within the capabilities of doing, and so many times, just as they said the word penalty, my shot went off. Yeah, that was just frustrating, and it really sucks to be sabotaged by your body. Like I said, my vision is, as I get older, not as good as it once was. I'm now at the point where to read on the computer screen or see iron sights, I need readers, or to look at a red dot to not have a cluster of cherries, I need readers. So I've gotten bifocal shooting glasses, and as I mentioned earlier, this is like literally the first time I've ever encountered the problem that every time the rifle came up and I looked at the dot, it was cut in half by the bifocal. Never encountered before. Didn't have the problem on the rest of the stages of this match either. I guess it was just that moment in time for it to go wrong. And it led to a very frustrating result, and I do apologize because I didn't get to the third bay where the pistol poppers were, and that was just an exciting part of this as well. And I'm really hoping that Varosteleko will do a version of this again in a future match, because the target set was very challenging, the stage was super fun, and I would really relish the chance to try it again. We hope you're finding this coverage of Finnish Brutality 2024 helpful and informative. Please comment, like, and subscribe, because tomorrow is Stage 8, and we're going man on man with it.